Hello. I'd just like to introduce myself. I'm Casserly from the UK, as Lee said. I want to thank the AFA for inviting me to lecture here today and to judge alongside Andrew and John. It's a great honour to be asked. I started this presentation and I wanted to bring something traditional from the UK, so I decided on concave shoes and hand making. When I started the presentation, I was asked to give a title, so I chose pros and cons. And as I went into it for myself, I couldn't find many cons. So I'm going to be talking about hand making concave and just simplifying it and how I make them for feet. So the day-to-day running of my shoeing business, I'll just go into a bit of detail. Lee's already covered a bit of it. But so my dad started Farrier 40 years ago, and he's trained my brother and myself. We've got a fully qualified farrier and an apprentice, and my mum on the books, who does the most important job of debt collecting. We do the easy bit, we shoot the horses. We shoot predominantly competition horses, but we shoot happy hackers and all sorts. So it's quite a varied business. Like all businesses, we can't keep up with demand of just making handmade shoes. So we buy a bit in, but I'd say we probably make 60% handmade fronts. We chose fronts because we felt that pictures needed more for in front than behind. So that's why we chose the fronts rather than making the hinds. But we still do make hinds, just not quite as many. So making shoes for feet, how important is that? I think it's very important. It's very different to just specimen shoemaking. For example, when my dad started, everything was handmade because there wasn't readily available machine-made shoes, or there was, but they weren't what they are today. I mean, some of the machine-made shoes now are fantastic. But he made all his own shoes. And this was done the night before or the afternoon after shoeing. And this gained a lot of skills, mainly memory, because you had to remember the horse's feet from 5, 6, 7 weeks ago. So you got good at remembering shapes, sizes, and all sorts of things. And speed, because if you've got 10, 12 sets to make the night before, you don't want to be in the shop all evening. So your shoemaking efficiency just went up. So I'll briefly touch on the pros, given that that's the title of my presentation. One of them's nail position. This is obviously, you can do this in any handmade shoe, flat or concave. Nail fit, I think that especially in concave, you seem to get a really good nail fit. The clenches don't rise throughout the shoeing cycle, and they look great when you get back to them. And probably the most important one for me is pitch. This is why we make a lot of our own shoes, because a machine doesn't seem to be able to do this yet when you drive the nails in. So, and a man or a woman can. So that's why we make a lot of our own shoes. Clip size and position, so cork clips or toe clips or side clips, whatever you want to put on. But again, you can do that with flat, obviously. Size increments, so we don't just make shoes for horses, because we've got an apprentice, he's in the forge making shoes, and we go up in quarter of size increments, which with machine made shoes you can't, or they don't do it. So we find that we have a really good selection of shoes in the van at any given time. And probably another main reason for concave is the grip on multi-terrain surfaces. Like we do a lot of hunting in the UK, so there's no better grip than shoe-wise than Concave. And cross-country, that's another huge event in the UK. And job satisfaction, like personally I don't think anything looks better on a foot than a bit of Concave, but maybe that's because we all cut our teeth on Concave in the UK. That's what we first start making shoes on and putting heels and toe bends in. So yeah, I think it looks good. And the cons, like I said, there wasn't many that I could find. Speed on the job, but if anyone listened to John's lecture this morning, there's no excuse there. Just get in the forge a bit earlier in the morning and make a pair for the day. It'll take you 15 minutes in the morning, but it will save you so much time on the job because you've made them for that horse and you're not fighting it. You've got the pitch, you don't have to chip the nails out and all sorts. So that's a really good attribute. And multi-surface work, obviously, they do sink on these surfaces a bit. So a lot of our dressage and show jumping horses, we put in flat shoes like Mustang with a wide web, because they stay on top of the surface, and that's what we want for those disciplines. So making the shoes, I'm going to do a demonstration shortly after this presentation, and just show you how I go about it day to day. And I've got a bit of a simplified way because we do a lot of teaching. We've got apprentices, so we do a lot of teaching, and I'll just show you how I simplify making shoes for feet. It's just a bit of a roundabout. It's not to be taken as gospel. So when we mark the steel, we mark it in the centre, or for a hind, we would obviously mark it probably an 1/8 off centre, which is 1/4 inch longer on the outside. And for the van and forge purposes, we mark our steel as per size. So if it's a whole section like 11 inches, 12 inches, 13, it's 1 mark on the inside. And then when we go up 1/4 inch from that, we do 1 mark on the outside of the steel. For half, it's 2 marks, and then 3/4 is 3 marks. And then we're back round to the whole number. So foot shapes. So like I said, when I'm teaching the apprentices, or how I was taught to make shoes for feet, rather than make a specimen shoe and then try and fit that, it's a lot quicker to make a shoe for that foot. So we categorize it into 3. So first of all, you've got a square foot. Now I know there's not square pedal bones. This is how I said earlier about just doing a roundabout approach to it, so you've got something to guide to. So we all know these feet, a bit sort of numb. They've got big bowl toe on them. They're fairly straight. The quarters are normally very late, but they can be early. And it's quite a subtle shape. There's not really a lot of out and on to it. So we call these square feet. This is the main foot shape we run into in the UK. It's like, I guess, a bit of a Farrier type shape, but pointy. So you've got your tight toe, straight toe quarters-ish, and then out to your quarter, which you have to sit on for that heel nail, and then exaggerate it back on to get centre of stock on your heel. And this foot is probably the main reason for pitch, because they're normally big, flat, dishy feet that need a lot of pitch, and machine-made shoes, for me personally, don't go on as well, because you end up chipping them out and you have to do a lot of alteration to them. And then you've got your round shape, probably the most pleasing shape to the eye to put on a foot. Lovely round toe, onto the quarter, which is quite early, and then straight back to the centre of stock with adequate boxing. This for me is the ideal foot shape. Looks really pleasing. So once we've categorised it into three examples, we start with the toe bend, which for me is probably the most important bend in the shoe. It's the first one, and it's where everything comes from. If you don't get your toe bend right, then you may as well start again, because you're just fighting it the whole time you're building the shoe. So again, three categories. We've got the pointy toe bend. Easy to go from here. Once you put this toe bend on, you've just got to put a heel on and put 1/4 in about middle of the part of the shoe. But if that toe bend isn't right and you put a bold one or a round one in, you've just got to keep going back and forth and back and forth. So why not put it right in the first place? Then we've got the square toe bend. Quite a numb shape, but see how the branches are so set on, because all now you have to do to this shoe is put a heel on and then put your second bend in there. And albeit if it's late, early, it's only going to be subtle. So if you've got a toe bend with great wide branches, you've got so much more work to do than if you put a toe bend on like this. So this is where I keep coming back to, I think it's the most important bend in a shoe. And then you've got your round toe bend. Again, all you've got to do is put a heel on and then put your quarter in. But it's just, I can't emphasise how important a toe bend is in a shoe. Like, it sets the whole shoe up. Then you've got your quarters. So on the square shoe, or the square foot if you like, you've got a quarter that's subtle, it's late or early, but you notice that the toe bend is just set up for that shoe. All I've done is put a heel on, and then I've had to do minimal bending from there. Why not make your job so much easier for the second stage by doing it right in the first? Then you've got your pointy one. This is the exaggerated quarter bend, I call it, where you sit right out on the quarter, which is so important on these feet, and then come back on and then sit in the centre of stock. And you're early, obviously, same as before. It's just simplifying it, and if you get it right, there's not a lot to do after that. So, as I explained earlier, we do a lot of hunting in the UK. So these are types of heels that I've found tricky to fit in the past. We put them into three variations again. So you've got your straight foot, which you're always stone catchy on these with hunter heels. So you want to really pinch that heel up and make it easier to fit. You can stand there all day with a rasp, but why not do it with a hammer? You've got your cover heel, just your normal heel, and then you've got wrappy, hooky heels, which I've found really hard to fit for ages and ages. And these need forging on. You can't do this with a rasp. So here's an example of a hooky hunter heel, I call it. You'll notice from the back that we're always taught to forge centre of stock, but sometimes the foot doesn't need that. And these are those feet that it's a really numb heel, and they're really hard to sit. And almost the centre of the stock is on the inside of the heel. So I figured out that if you just take a tiny edge off the inside and predominantly forge the outside, this is how you can achieve this heel. And you'll find it so much easier to fit when they're like this, rather than putting a lovely heel on and trying somehow to fit it with a rasp. It just doesn't happen. So more hunter heels. This is the straight one I was talking about. Notice how it's pinched up because you're always catchy on the frog check there. And yeah, I think these probably look the best on a foot if you're going for pleasing to the eye. I think that was actually a competition I did just before I got here in the UK, so that went quite well. And then you've got upright heels. Again, you've got three variations. You have the straight, the cover, and the hooky ones. For the hooky ones and cover, I find these types of hills best. This is a Swiss hill, and it's just a lot of material to cover that hill, and you can box it off adequately. If you put a normal hill on this foot, you're never gonna be centre of stop. Just won't happen. So I'm now going to go to the anvil and just demonstrate or try and back up my techniques here with a bit of forging. So hopefully I can do that.